Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the regular City Council meeting of the City of Placerville, September 12th, 2017. If you'd all rise and join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to take a moment to excuse my casual attire. I just got over from Lassen County where I was doing some work, and there was traffic and crashes on 80, and I just got here, so anyway. Let's see here. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Borelli is noted as absent. Councilmember Acuna.
Here.
Mayor Clarici.
Here.
Vice Mayor Thomas.
Here?
Councilmember Wilkins.
Here.
Okay, announcements and presentations to the public. The brief comments by the City Council. Does the council have any brief comments they would like to make?
Not this evening, sir.
I would, yes.
Okay.
Would like to thank El Dorado County Fire as well as our own police department for putting on the first annual 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb at the Red Hawk Casino yesterday. It was a fabulous event to commemorate 9/11 and the law enforcement personnel that died on that day in service to their fellow man. And it was something to see. And I have to take my hat off to Commander Nida and Officers Gottsmer and Randall, who participated from the Placerville Police Department, and they did us proud. They did the whole thing, and it was incredibly tough, as well as large contingency from El Dorado County Fire, South Lake Tahoe Fire, the tribal police, as well as other agencies participated. So it was quite an amazing day, and I look forward to doing it again. So.
Thank you very much. Tricia, do you have anything to add to anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. I would like to make one comment. We are halfway through the first annual Apple Core Fringe Festival, and I went to a couple of performances with my lovely bride on Friday, and it was really great. And so we went over to the courtyard. We saw two performances. They were really well done. And I would encourage everybody, I think this weekend it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can go online to Apple Core Fringe and check it out. And the performances are $10 a piece, and all the money goes to the performers. And it's just something new and fresh in our town, and it's really kind of cool. So I encourage everybody this week to do that. Besides, we can combine that with Oktoberfest, which is Saturday. So you can drink beer and watch a performance, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that was great. And we did our first paving project. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but Placerville Drive's looking really good. All the way from the highway to Ray Lawyer Drive, it looks fantastic. Now, we do get a lot of questions. Why didn't we do the on-ramp, the westbound on-ramp? We don't own the westbound on-ramp. But I already pitched it to Caltrans and said, hey, listen, look at this beautiful bit of pavement we got here. Can't you guys throw some asphalt on top of that? And who knows what they may do. Anyway, so thank you to staff and to Doug Veerkamp Engineering and to everybody that was involved in that. So thank you very much. Okay, we are going to make an announcement of a new planning commissioner, Mr. Rivas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It is staff's pleasure to report on the City Council appointment of Christine Keeney to the City of Placerville Planning Commission. She was appointed last August the 28th and was seated for her first Planning Commission meeting on September the 5th. And I wish to note that without her appointment, this meeting would have been canceled for lack of a quorum. So thank you very much.
Great.
Keep all the projects moving forward. Chris has been a resident and property owner in the city for over 20 years and has been a community volunteer in various programs such as the Upper Room, Big Brothers and Sisters Mentor Program, the Adult Literacy Program, and the Public Library. Chris also has an interest in land use planning issues, and she holds a certification in land use and planning from the UC Davis Extension Program. And the certification process provided her an education in the basics of planning, including planning law and CEQA review. With her broad experience, she will add yet another important and unique perspective to our Planning Commission. As always, the city is grateful to have citizens who volunteer their time and efforts to serve on our commissions and committees. And with that, we're all happy to welcome Christine Keeney as the new member of our City Planning Commission. Thank you.
Right.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to say that we had two excellent choices, and we would have done well. They both presented different kinds of skill sets and different sort of views of things, and I think it was very good to have a good choice to make, and I think we're going to go, and I think it was just really well done. So anyway,
She'll just be a wonderful addition.
I think so
Yeah.
too. Yeah. All right. Item 3.4. We're not going to do 3.3 because the person has some family stuff, I think sick somebody's or some things, and they need to be taken care of. So they're not here, which is perfectly understandable. We have a new associate civil engineer. We'll do this again at the next meeting. All right, 3.4, Sacramento Metro Chamber Regional Update Presentation. Peter Tateshi and Robert Dugan.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to come today. We're here just to kind of give an update on some of the work that the Sacramento Metro Chamber is doing in conjunction with many folks here in El Dorado County and Placerville itself. Many of you have actually attended our Cap to Cap program and done other programs with the Sacramento Metro Chamber. And one of the things this year we wanted to do was just come back out to all of our communities that we represent and do a follow-up on kind of the outcomes and some of the opportunities and even some of the challenges that we're seeing as a regional chamber. And so we do very much appreciate the opportunity. And so we have just a quick slideshow and a presentation. And so just as a reminder, the Sacramento Metro Chamber is a regional chamber. We really try to focus on regional issues and regional priorities. We're not here to be the local chambers. We have great local chambers that we partner with. You have a wonderful one in El Dorado County Chamber. And we don't want to serve those roles. We want to see the roles that really promote the regional prosperity for our 6 county regions. So you can see our 6 counties that we service, and many of you have worked with those 6 counties through our different programs. And so our focus is regional advocacy and organic business growth, and we do that through a number of programs. And we're here tonight to talk about our Cap to Cap, our State Ledge Summit, Study Mission, and our Capital Region Small Business Development Center, or SBDC. And so through our advocacy programs, many of you have participated in either of these 3 or in all of them. And so we do have our Cap to Cap, which sends our delegation, our regional delegation, back to Washington, D.C. for 5 days to really storm the Hill, take over the administration, and talk about our entire region's priorities at the federal level. We have our State Legislative Summit, which is a 1-day program at the state capitol, where again we take on regional priorities and work with our local assembly and state senators, and work with the administration with this governor's office as well. And then our third program is our Study Mission program, where we really try to look at different cities and how those cities and regions even interact and can impact, and things that we can learn from as a Metro Chamber and as regions to kind of, again, look at different regions across the country. So we're going to talk about some of those and give some updates in that space, and that's where I'm going to kind of turn it over to my expert, my Senior Vice President, Robert Dugan, to kind of talk about some of those outcomes.
Good evening. Thanks again for having us here. Quickly, we'll chat about Cap to Cap. This year, we had 12 federal policy teams that went back on Cap to Cap, focusing on everything from transportation to air quality to healthcare, even security and law enforcement. With those 12 policy teams, we had 39 policy papers, 103 key policy asks that were distinct policy asks, and ultimately 40 key infrastructure projects, several of which affected the El Dorado County corridor and the Highway 50 corridor. As we worked through our priority issues throughout the region, we identified 3 key priority areas that seemed to be overarching. And you'll see them there on the board, and I know that you've got the presentation there in front of you. The first is the regulatory environment. We have a distinct opportunity right now to try and engage the regulatory environment that is stifling your ability to build the city you want to build and the region, to build the region that it wants to build. So we took back several key regulatory reform, review, and rollback asks this year. And really, the regulatory environment is the framework in which our economies are built, right? The second piece was infrastructure. infrastructure to facilitate economic growth, the pipes and wires, roads and rails that are the platform upon which our economy is built. So we had several of those key areas. And finally, something I'm sure you're grappling with, as are many industries, the workforce question, because that's the fuel that builds an economy. And we had several key teams from land use to agriculture to healthcare all identify that we're facing significant shortages in workforce. And so those were our top 3 areas under which most all of our projects and advocacy priorities fell. So going forward, engagement by the numbers. Again, we had 360 participants this year. We had over 3 days, 279 separate meetings. We ended up with more than 30 meetings with administrative officials, which was a challenge. You know, this year was a unique challenge. There's a lot of chaos, a lot of transition. A non-insider coming into the White House created all kinds of chaos that we all read in the newspaper, still do every day. But we still managed to make sure that we worked our way in to get to the right folks that helped us move the ball forward. We had, I think it was 35 total meetings with administrative officials. And in some cases, we met with the senior professional staffer because, quite frankly, they're the person that still will be there after the administration changes again. Moving forward, our state legislative summit, by the numbers, we had 130 participants this year from throughout the region. We had 50 total meetings. We had 9 policy teams and 9 policy priorities, and therefore we developed 9 policy papers, all focused on regional prosperity and issues you'd imagine like water, transportation, workforce, et cetera. So we had a really robust program this year for Cap to Cap and State Legislative Summit. I'm not going to read through all of the funding and budget progress priorities over the next 2 pages. I'm just going to bring out a couple that I think are pretty significant to us up here on the 50 corridor. And one that we were just chatting about, major progress has finally been made. And as the mayor identified, I spent a few years working for the state senator in this region, and we couldn't make any progress then. But we're finally reaching critical mass where our state and federal regulators are recognizing that forest health affects more than just pretty scenery from the highway. That connection for forest health between carbon sequestration, carbon release when there's a devastating forest fire because of lack of investment in forest health, snow capture, which results in water supply reliability for pretty much the entire rest of the state, including our region, and how those issues come together. And maybe we need to start focusing on that if we want to address water quality, if we want to address air quality, if we want to address water supply reliability. So major victory this year, both in Washington and in the State House. Right now, we just signed on to a joint letter with our Clean Air Partnership partners that's focusing on the new cap and trade and talking about forest health and talking about how investments in forest health will help affect air quality as it comes down the hill. Those are pretty significant. Another significant one I want to mention, and then I'll move on, and I can go back to anything you'd like me to in more detail, but this year we have really galvanized the region relative to water supply reliability with all the battles that we've had over the drought. And as you know, you did not have a surface supply problem during this drought. We did have a groundwater problem in the Central Valley, but the state decided it wanted to use a broad brush. But we've got a really strong partnership right now looking at regional water supply reliability that includes things like Sites Reservoir, a groundwater bank in the greater Sacramento, North Sacramento Valley area, and a project we're calling the River Arc Project, which you'd ask me, well, why does all that matter? Well, as we take pressure off the American River and put it maybe in a new reservoir in the Sacramento River, it takes pressure off of all the water supplies that come out of our region up here in the foothills. Second piece is, as El Dorado County tries to perfect more of its water rights, which it has entitlement to, but has not been able to perfect them, we're looking at potential partnerships where in the interim, as they perfect them, maybe build a dam or two on some of the tributaries of our larger rivers up here, they can shuttle that water and sell it into areas in the Sacramento region that need it, put it to use so they can hang on to it until such a time that El Dorado County needs that water. And they've been part of those dialogues all along. And we got some pretty good traction with state and federal officials in that regard. So those are the couple I wanted to mention. Obviously, transportation is always key as well. So with that, I'll move on to study mission.
So this year we are going to Austin. We're very excited to be able to go October 10th through the 13th. We do think that Austin as a region is one that we can definitely learn a lot from, especially in the identity space. Austin has done a very good job of kind of using its brand, using that to not just attract tourism, but also attract businesses. And so what we're looking at is really seeing how they're cultivating just a different innovation culture, looking at how they've actually been strategic in how they identify projects that they're working on that will attract not just tourism, but again, jobs and businesses, and then really even some of the stuff that they're doing on the urban and suburban development. And so we are looking at that regional dynamic, and I do want to point out we are going to be talking about homelessness. Homelessness across our 6-county region is becoming a bigger issue. In some areas, it's completely unsustainable, and so Austin has taken on some innovative approaches to the whole health and homelessness issue, and so we're excited to be looking at that and looking at it as a multi-jurisdictional issue the way they've done there. So we're excited about that upcoming program, and we'll be announcing at the end of that program our next year's City of Choice. And then we're going to talk a little bit about kind of our economic development now. And so one of the programs that we've done and we've really taken on, and it's kind of the last bullet point there, is our Small Business Development Center. And so we partner very closely with the California Northeast network, but we service an 8-county region as the capital region, SBDC. And so we do service some of El Dorado County, not Placerville. But we do service El Dorado Hills and kind of up towards Shingle Springs, and we partner with the Sierra Business Council, who actually services this area as part of the SBDC. But together, the network is a huge network that services over 28 counties and really works to create opportunities for startups, business development, and really capital infusion. And so we're going to talk just briefly about some of the numbers that we've been able to do. In the 2.5 years that we've been operating our capital region SBDC, we've opened up 104 new companies here in our region. You're looking at over 650 jobs that are here because of that program, and over $32 million of capital infused into our local economy. So the multiplier effect of what those jobs do, what that kind of capital creates, is huge for our 8-county region. And when we look at kind of the numbers here, it is a federal program, and we're just going to kind of talk about that. It's a free service to all businesses. So the Sierra Business Council, who services this area, it is free to all businesses in Placerville. And it really can be, whether you're an entrepreneur who's looking to start up or you're an existing small business that's looking to grow. It provides one-on-one consultation services to really help those individuals create business plans, financial plans, and really creates the opportunity to become loan ready. We know that the biggest challenge for most small businesses across the state really is access to capital, and we have a number of financial institutions who keep saying we have money to lend, but not people to lend to. And so the SBDC really creates that bridge to create opportunities to move small businesses into a lendable space, so that those who have the opportunity to lend, the financial institutions, banks, credit unions, et cetera, are able to lend out. And so that's why we've been able to free up $32 million of capital for our region in this process. But it is a federal program, and so 50% is provided by the federal government, provided that we get a 50% local match or non-federal match to put that in. So the Sacramento Metro Chamber works very diligently to raise over $300,000 every year to keep this program going. And of course, as California is the biggest state, it has the biggest share of SBDC funding, but of course is also the only state in the union that doesn't actually provide any federal funding, or doesn't provide the full federal match to pull down those dollars to actually provide this service across the state. So we've been working very diligently with our local officials and took that as part of our priorities with State Ledge Summit. And this year we did get a 50% increase in state funding to the SBDC across the state. So it went from $2 million to $3 million, which is great. But again, if we were to fully fund this program, it'd be about $14.4 million. And the whole program then would be funded for the entire state of California, supporting job creation and business startups and loan and capital infusion. We think it would be the strongest thing the state could do to actually show a pro-business stance, is to fund the SBDC. So we're slowly working on that. But El Dorado County, by the numbers so far, we've been able to service 40 clients in the El Dorado Hills areas. 14 of those clients have serious economic impact with 6 business starts and over $2.3 million of capital infused into that part of the economy. So we're very excited about that. There is a kind of a great story. One of our success stories in El Dorado that is there on your packet. So I mean, with that, though, they've been able to hire 3 employees and obtain 2 government contracts. These are the things that we're trying to help these businesses do and really create more opportunity for all of us. And so we do have great regional hubs. And so one of the things that's unique about our program is that we don't make everyone come to downtown Sacramento. We actually have regional hubs across the 8 counties to make sure that we can service people throughout that space and really provide those services. So we send our consultants to do one-on-one consultation to all of these different hubs across the region. And so with that, that concludes our program for tonight. We just wanted to make sure that we had this opportunity to kind of update you on the things that we're doing regionally and how we're supporting the economic growth here in the 6-county region. So I don't know if you do questions, but we'd be happy to entertain any questions if you have them.
Do any of you have questions?
Actually, just thank you so much for being here tonight. It was a very informative presentation. I appreciate the extra knowledge. I guess my question is, how do you relate to the local chambers within the region that you represent?
So one of the things that we try to do is we try to make sure that we're not stepping on the toes of our local region or local chamber partners. So we typically don't, you won't see us very often testifying before all of you on a decision before that you would be making. We tend to try to be conveners and collaborators on regional priority issues. One of the things that we're trying to do, and we are making strides, we are not succeeded fully yet, is trying to do more outreach to all of our regional partners in these in the 6-county region. So there are a lot of chambers of commerce, and working with them and inviting them to participate in our Cap-to-Cap programs, in our committees, State Ledge Summit, study missions, and other things. So we talked to Laurel tonight, and we're going to be engaging on some of the stuff that she is doing and the chamber is doing up here on kind of forest management, and that's a very big regional issue for us. So we're going to do more to try to engage our local partners, because that's how we see them as partners.
Right.
We have to be regional, so we can't spend time just focusing on Placerville or focusing just on Sacramento. We really have to be able to be that regional partner and be the convener that brings us all together and puts aside differences and supports regional economic growth.
So you're kind of the palette, if you will, for the local chambers to represent their local jurisdictions to you, so our needs can best be addressed on a regional level.
I think that's one of the things that we are striving to enhance. I don't think that the Sacramento Metro Chamber has always done a good job of that. I will say that there are times that we were a little more competitive with our partners,
Okay.
and we, since Robert and I have been with the chamber, have made an effort to do a lot more outreach and to try to actually not come into the space of trying to be competitive, but be more partners and collaborative.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well, really, really nice to meet you both tonight. Thanks for coming to Placerville.
Thank you.
I'd like to hear from Laurel, actually,
Well, let's ask some more
if
questions.
that's okay.
Well, there's an opportunity. Okay, no, we will. If we have any more questions for these gentlemen, and then we'll open the mic up, so we'll be good.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just comment. Peter and Robert, I want to thank you for taking your time this evening to come up to Placerville. I know that you are very busy with a very competitive, rapidly changing and expanding region that you're covering, and we appreciate your efforts to support businesses region-wide. We'll even build off those folks that you helped in El Dorado Hills, because what is all of our towns but small business? And the success of small businesses leads to the success of medium and large businesses, and the growth and the benefits that they all bring. So piece by piece, one at a time, we will do this, and we appreciate you working with our local chambers in a cooperative and non-competitive manner. That is really wonderful to hear, and I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question, and I think this is all great. And but one of the things I always ask myself, because we frequently hear things, and when I'm on the I serve on the SACOG board, we hear things at SACOG about economic development and how many jobs were created and how much this and that, and yeah. But the question I always have to myself is, well, what's the baseline? I mean, the Sacramento region will create X number of jobs, quite honestly, whether any of these programs are in place or not, because it's a big, giant place with lots of job creation. So sometimes sort of separating out exactly what the benefit is of a dollar of investment in any one thing can be challenging. So I don't expect you to answer this question, but for me personally, in the number of hats I wear, I'm always curious about that. You know, there is a baseline out there. We can sort of guesstimate how many jobs would be created in the region. We had a gentleman come up here a couple of years ago and say that they want to create X number of jobs. And you're like going, well, that's a pretty small number because probably the Sacramento region creates thousands of jobs every year, whether you're doing anything or not. It's just they're there. So that's always one of the questions I have, and I find it a little easier to sort of evaluate exactly what an investment looks like when I know, oh, well, this is above. Like, it created this much more capital, these many more jobs, this many more thing than over some sort of historical tertiary level that you could actually kind of, and I'm sure you could find that out. So that's my only question. It's not really a question, it's more of a comment.
Well, what I'll say is what's great about the SBDC is that these are just factual numbers. These are the metrics that we do. So it's not a guess. We actually can track all of these, which is wonderful. So we know for our annual $600,000 investment between the federal government and what we raise, we're able to, on an annual basis, serve about 1,000 clients with different one-on-one services. Now, I won't tell you that those one-on-ones will always generate a new job or will keep someone in business, but I'll tell you they help. But what we can say is that through those services, we do know when we do actually start a new company. We do know when they actually receive the capital and loans because we track that. And we do know how many jobs they're creating or how many jobs they're keeping open through getting access to that capital. So what's nice about this program is that if you will, let's just run it up to 3 years at this point. We have put $1.8 million into that program, and we have $32 million of capital directly from that program. So there is a direct tie that says for a $1.8 million investment, our region is getting $32 million.
Okay.
So that's a nice number. I'm not going to say, we could do a multiplier effect and other things, and we've talked to economists about that, but we've decided to keep it to what's just factual numbers versus hypothetical economic terms, because economics can tell you anything you want it to tell you. So we keep it to, here's our metrics based on the clients that we're serving.
Right. But the assumption would be that none of those people would go out and start a business without this program.
Well, what we know is that a lot of those folks, and if you talk to the financial institutions, they'll tell you without this program, which is why, candidly, our $300,000 we raise overwhelmingly is coming from financial institutions, because most of the people that are coming into our services are being referred back to us from banks and credit unions because they're saying you're not lendable. And so within 6 months, we can put them back into those banks and they're getting lending. So in that dynamic, we can tell you that there's a direct correlation with us saying that those people probably weren't going to be getting capital without it.
Okay. Well, no, that's very useful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Appreciate the question.
Would anybody else, well, are there any more questions?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would anybody like to comment on this? You're not obligated to, I mean, but yeah.
Yes, yes.
I too would like, Laurel Brentbaum, El Dorado County Chamber. I too would like to thank Peter and Robert for coming up tonight. They do have great programs. We did many years ago, actually 11 years ago, plagiarized their study mission. And it's been very successful for El Dorado County. And we do have representation actually from Sacramento participants and Valley Vision and SACOG. So we have a connection with the regional chamber. I look forward to that being stronger in the future. And we actually are the SBDC Center for east of El Dorado Hills, working with Sierra Business College. I don't have, Council, I don't have those stats for you tonight, and they're not as big as theirs. But we are doing great things with the SBDC, and we do a lot of monthly. We do one-on-one business counseling as well as prepare people for SBA loans and the same identical program. So we're happy to know that El Dorado Hills, the Western Slope, is being served by Sac Metro, as well as our remaining county being served by our Sierra Business Council at the Chamber.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment on this? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we have a closed session report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight in closed session, the council, with 4 members present, Councilmember Borelli being absent, rejected the liability claim of Kim Johnston. The council also, with respect to labor negotiations, reached a tentative agreement with the Placerville Police Officers Association. It is a 3-year agreement, and it includes such things as a 2.5% pay increase for this fiscal year. It includes some increases in annual reimbursement for employee automobile insurance expenses, canine officer stipend increase. It changes the leave bank on CTO time slightly. It agrees to increase reimbursement for, excuse me, education reimbursement, as well as post-certification pay. Those increases are carried through the 3 years of the agreement, with additional potential pay increases depending upon financial status or financial circumstances at the time, which could affect whether or not the city is going to be obligated to make those pay increases. Cool. And if you want a full copy of the agreement, it will be available in about 2 weeks once the formal agreement is prepared and presented to the council, so it could be available to you then.
Cool. Thank you very much. And good work, everybody, on all of that. Those are difficult things sometimes, and we got through it, and I think it's a good solution to the contract. So, would someone like to adopt this agenda?
I would go ahead and make a motion to adopt the agenda with the removal of item 12.1.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Mayor, can we just request that we table that to the 26th, to your next meeting, the 12.1?
Would you like to do that?
I certainly would.
I will amend my second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. Ceremonial matters, we have no ceremonial matters. Public comment. Brief non-agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not in the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. State law prohibits the city council from acting on items not listed on the agenda except by special action of the city council under specified circumstances. The mayor reserves the right to limit the speaker's time to 3 minutes. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name for the record. And be nice, follow the golden rule, don't say anything that you wouldn't want someone to say about you. So, do we have any written communications?
No written.
Okay, great. I'm sorry,
I'd like to acknowledge that the council did receive a written
right.
letter from Ruthie Loffelbin. I apologize if I said that wrong, and we've read her letter and appreciate her correspondence.
Yes, thank you. Now we open the microphone for anyone wishing to speak on this item.
Good evening, Kirk Smith of Placerville. Mayor Clarucci, I know that sometimes it's difficult when people are up here representing their views. It's the one part that's not scripted on your part to know what to expect. But I think that sometimes the response from mayors can be rather strong and discourage people, maybe not following the golden rule. So let me just suggest one last time. When I was here before, you described my comments on the parking regulations as silly. I never said you didn't listen. You do listen. Secondly, I didn't say that there was anything improper about you missing half the PDA sessions, actually the most important part. Nobody ever said that. It's just that if you're going to represent that everything was done according to Hoyle to present and roll out the parking regulations because you were there at the meeting, it's just kind of like going to the movie theater and seeing the previews of coming attractions in the cartoon and not seeing a main feature and then giving a movie review. Throughout the entire year of 2016, which was my point, at the very end, when you actually hear from merchants and not those boring speeches in the beginning, there was lots of angst and discussion about the parking regulations because they noted Cleve's comments in the proposed budget where it said that we would be, the council might want to consider raising, the parking fees. And that prompted some anxiety because the fear was, well, they might not bring that up until after the parking matters come up for increasing the sales tax. So that's what the point. And you could always say, well, somebody gave you big notes or something, but that was the only point. It's not that you did anything improper, but that had to do with the rollout. And as far as being silly, no offense, but I'm not the one who expressed their ethnic roots for expressing outrage at the use of the term political vendetta, citing some ancient description of Sicilian thing about a blood libel. That'd be like me being Irish and saying, I don't want you to pronounce the term, McDonald's, it's McDonald's. Influenza is the Italian for under the influence, but we're not going to go around saying you're a lunatic just because you've got the flu. You get the point. is a little strong. Likewise, please look at the letter from Sue Taylor, because she never said that you had promised to engage in negotiations. I think you're a little strong there. She didn't make misrepresentations. Actually, it's Mark Acuna and a couple others had said it. And I'm sure they didn't represent, they were acting on behalf of the city. Again, you get sharp contrasts of views here, but that's great. Participatory democracy isn't always neat and nice. And you learn from each other, because I learn from you. That's just a suggestion. And otherwise, I came here to listen to the chief. So why not share a few other comments?
Sue Rodman, member of the HL Committee. And I would just like to thank Rebecca and especially thank Doug Veerkamp and all his employees, because the entrance to Placerville off of the 40 Road freeway exit now is spectacular. It really has got an upgrade that is very nice, much improvement. So shout out to our engineer for negotiating to get that all the way to Ray Lawyer Drive, and to Veerkamp for their excellent workmanship.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Actually, Sue, thank you for all your efforts in passing Measure L and ensuring that we could do that.
Okay. Anyone else? Great, thank you very much. The consent calendar. All matters listed in the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call vote unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. The reading of the full text of all resolutions will be waived unless a council member requests otherwise. And it is my understanding that we do want to, I don't think we want to pull this item, but maybe just do some clarifications around item 8.5. Yes, please do.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to mention this is this item probably should not have necessarily been on consent. If you'd like to pull it, you're welcome to do that, due to the fact that it is not necessarily what I would consider routine. This is an emergency purchase. We're recommending to repurchase this vehicle that is necessary. The old vehicle basically has fallen apart. The block is cracked on the engine. We're trying to glue it together and hold it together at this time, and it is not working. And this did not come up during budget time, so we are asking for an expenditure out of our sewer enterprise fund contingency for unforeseen expenditures to pay for this vehicle. And again, if you'd like more information on that, you're welcome to pull that, and Mr. Yule and myself can answer any questions.
Great. Does anyone feel a need to pull this item?
No, and I will move approval of the consent calendar.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Would anybody wish to speak on the consent calendar? Okay, thank you. Bring it back here. We have a motion, a second. Please call roll.
Councilmember Borelli is noted as absent. Councilmember Acuna?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye.
Great, thank you very much. 9 items pulled, none. Ordinances, none. Public hearings, none. 12, discussion and action items. 12.1 has been pulled, or it has been moved to the next meeting. 12.2, adopt a resolution changing the provisions of Placerville Municipal Code relating to parking enforcement time, Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., to Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and authorizing the city manager to enforce parking accordingly until further directed by the city council, and reducing the downtown parking district fund budget by $15,675. Mr. Morris, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On August 29th, the Ad Hoc Parking Advisory Committee met to consider further changes to our new parking program. There was a lot of discussion. I think the meeting went about, what, two and a half hours we were there. Good discussion, good comments, good input. I think a lot was learned and a lot of education was done at that meeting to help all of us understand each other's perspectives and the needs. The recommendation that came out of that meeting was to continue Sunday free parking, so no enforcement on Sunday, and to changed the enforcement time Monday through Saturday from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening. So we would go from 8 to 6 rather than 8 to 7, reducing that by 1 hour. And then also directed asked you to direct the parking committee to continue to look at long-term issues in terms of how we can fund our infrastructure, our parking facilities downtown for the future, and make sure that they are well-funded and well-maintained. So that's something that, if you direct that they would do, not immediately, but down the road here, we will convene them again and look at further issues related to how to permanently and possibly more efficiently fund future improvements to our parking facilities. What you have before you tonight is not the final ordinance change due to timing. We're recommending that you adopt a resolution again that will change that time from 7 to 6 o'clock, and we will come back to you with an ordinance in the future. There's a little bit other cleanup work that we've found that we will make in that ordinance, and we'll bring that back to you to adopt. But this will put this into effect immediately. So as of basically tomorrow, we would change that enforcement to 6 o'clock, and we think we're prepared to do that. I'm looking at Erin because she's been helping me on this particular item. There's a quick change to the parking pay station to change that to 6 o'clock. Hopefully we can get that done. As you may or may not know, Calais, our parking enforcement or parking pay station company, is located in Florida. So they have been affected, and most of their offices are closed through Thursday due to the hurricane in Florida. So we have been in contact with them, however, and there is some of their technicians are up and running, and it may be that we can't get that actual change on the pay station made till 6 o'clock, but we won't be to 6 o'clock made until after Thursday, but we won't be enforcing it starting tomorrow, so it shouldn't be a big deal. So with that, we will come back to you with that ordinance, hopefully at your next meeting. We've started those changes that are necessary to put this in place, and once those go into place, it'll be done that way, and the resolutions will no longer be necessary. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions, comments?
Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Okay. So with the elimination of Sunday, is there still going to be a ghost day?
No, there will not be a ghost day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
My question is relating to signage, because I think that is, an absolutely critical component of this successful rollout. So what is the process for signage going forward?
What I requested of the parking committee is that they assign a couple of members to meet with us to relook at the signage and redo the signage to make it work for our needs. And they did. Sue Rodman, Sue Reese, and Elizabeth Zangari were appointed to that.
Great.
In addition, there are a couple of private citizens that were at the meeting that we reached out to see if they would be interested in working with us on signage to make it clear.
Great.
And they have one of those has responded back to me that they're interested. The other one I have not heard back from yet.
Great.
So,
Well, really appreciate that good work, because I think that's going to be the really critical component of this. And I'd like to put my 2 cents in here, that I personally would like to see the signs as I don't want them to be as regulatory as perhaps they have been. Whatever regulations we have to have on the signs, certainly, but, I think have them friendly, approachable, and then certainly clear will, I think, give us the most bang for our buck and make the parking program as successful as it can be. So that's my 2 cents worth, and we know that's all I'm worth, so. 1 cent, yeah, okay.
2 cents. I'm going to get, yes, sir. I too wanted to just ask Cleve what his thoughts were on getting the signage. That was probably the other biggest issue that we heard through our public council meetings as well as the workshop. That you rightfully held off putting his, we went with the minimal signage when we launched, which was the correct move. But you really don't know. Sundays are free, and you don't know when the district ends. You don't know when the district starts on most of our signs. So if we could even get a stopgap measure on them as quickly as we could to start to get the accurate information out to the public, that would be great.
At each of the pay stations currently, we have some temporary signage. We'll make another modification to that and keep those up for now. They are very regulatory, I will admit. The problem we run into is once we start looking at the other signs and what is necessary, every time you turn the corner, there's another piece of information. And we hear from the public too that says, well, the sign doesn't say I have to do that. So how do you make it friendly and not regulatory and not get those concerns from the public? So there's a balance there that we need to come to, and I think having the Measure H committee members, Measure HL committee, or parking committee members, excuse me, there to help us, and then also these public citizens, I think it will be good. And we'll reach out to others. Perhaps we'll present the signs to PDA and others before we finalize those and go from there. So.
One other comment.
That's good.
Yes, go ahead.
And I thank you for keep the signs brief, Clay. Don't let the city attorney get involved in the word. You know, we've done a tremendous amount of work on this again. And John Driscoll was city manager when we launched it way back when in 2007. And he spent an awful lot of time leasing parking places and not managing the city because that's what the priority was. And here we are about to launch, I think we've done a lot more detailed work on this version of parking 2.0 or wherever we're at. And I think one of the mistakes we made is we sent the last one off and then kind of forgot about it. And we found out that at the end of that useful life of all that equipment that we still had a tremendous amount of negative cash flow, and we wound up having to forgive a pretty substantial loan that I know would fix a couple of streets easily. I would want to encourage the council to consider between now and when Cleve brings it back to us, formalizing some sort of regular reporting on the district. And I would suggest at least quarterly so that we don't have any surprises. There's a tremendous amount of money involved. There's an investment on this. There is the public investment, the business investment, and to just wander off down the road now again like we did in the past, I think would be a huge mistake. And we need to make sure that if there are issues, we can identify them early. And hopefully Dave will come back with tremendous success stories quarter after quarter. But we really need to make sure that we hold ourselves accountable to making sure that the district's working.
Agreed. Okay. Are there any other questions, comments from up here? Okay. Would the public like to comment on this item?
Sue Rodman again, member of the Parking Committee too. And I think that what we have here is the best compromise that we can have for now. I too want to see how it works. So I would also like to see the numbers that we made our best wild-ass guess for what they were going to be and see what that comes out. And so I would like to see, okay, in the next 6 months, what happens? Do we actually get the kind of income that we're expecting from this? And can we track it to the changes that we've made so that we know, okay, how much of this is coming from 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.? How much of it is are we losing on Sundays because we're not charging people who come to town and use our facilities but pay nothing for them? That was my concern when we put this through, and I still have a concern that we have a lot of our visitors to Placerville are here on the weekends. One of those days is Saturday, the other day is Sunday. And by them not contributing anything to our parking that they are using on the Sunday, how much are we losing? And how much, is this a workable alternative that we have here? Or are we really need to look at this in 6 months and see at mid-year if we are coming out okay, or if we need to take another look at this and talk to our businesses about the fact that if they don't want to be contributing a lot more to maintaining our parking facilities, then perhaps their customers and the people who are coming here on the weekends need to be contributing.
Thank you, Sue. Anyone else wish to make comments on this? Okay, we'll bring it back up here.
Just a brief comment, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to thank our community for wrestling with this issue with us, and I know it's been heated at times, but appreciate everyone's good thought on it, and certainly appreciate the parking committee for working diligently on this. You've for years the committee has been at work, testing different parking theories and observing behavior and looking at data and, wrestling with budgets as well as predicting future repairs and maintenance needs. And that brings us to where we are today. And so just really appreciate everyone's good thought and look forward to going forward with it. And I think we have a workable solution here. And I like your idea, Mark, on, having regular reviews to make sure we're on the right track. But appreciate everyone's good thought on this.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve item 12.2.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Borelli is noted as absent. Councilmember Acuna?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye.
And I would too like to echo Councilmember Thomas's thank you to the community, the different committee members, the PDA, and all the business owners for all the hard work, all our staffers.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, adopt a resolution ratifying the purchase of a new. What? Nope.
Could I make one more comment? I wanted,
course.
since she's here tonight, my secretary, Erin, filling in for Regina, I need to give a lot of credit to her over the last couple of months working on the parking program. She's taken the brunt of all the complaints. And,
I'm sorry.
Dealt with it, and she's done an excellent job. She's always got a good attitude in working with people and trying to help them out. So I want to thank her publicly for doing that. So thanks.
Well, sorry that we just rushed past all that. Thank you very much, Aaron. You've done yeoman's work. All right. 12.3, adopt a resolution ratifying the purchase of a brand-new 2017 Ford Explorer from Folsom Lake Ford in the amount of $33,921.43 and ratifying the purchase of a used 2016 Ford Fusion from CarMax of Roseville in the amount of $17,685.44. Chief Ortega.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Both of these vehicles were approved in our budget discussions earlier this year. We had to move kind of quickly on this because some things came up after approved budget to save the city money. First of all, the Ford Explorers went off of the state master contract for whatever reason. I still haven't figured that out. And that was going to go off on July 6th, and we needed to get our vehicle purchase in before that date. So I apologize for not coming to you beforehand. If we had waited, we would have had to keep one of our older Crown Victorias in service, and it's fallen apart. By doing this, we saved the process of having to go through the RFP process and perhaps buy a new model year vehicle, which would have been more expensive for the city. So the total cost being $47,262, including the emergency equipment, lights, and everything, is at least a couple $1,000s less than it could have been in the beginning. For the administrative vehicle, we simply took the option to buy a used Fusion with only 12,800 miles on it. Will serve our purpose as well for the next 5 to 6 years versus a new one for $22,000 or $23,000. That's it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them for you.
I'd like to thank you for being thrifty with the people's money and moving quickly to make this purchase, and you are forgiven. Are there any other questions or comments?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, great. Would the public like to comment on buying cars? We've been very active in the car business.
Nice, shiny.
Okay, great. I will move this item.
And I will second the item.
We have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Borelli is noted as absent. Councilmember Acuna?
Aye.
Mayor Clarici?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. 12.4, adopt a resolution approving the temporary reclassification of an existing police officer position to a police officer recruit position through June 30th, 2018, and approving the amended job description for the police officer recruit position. Chief Ortega.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This resolution, what it will allow us to do is to hire a new hire a person with no academy training, pay to put them through the academy, and then upgrade their position from police recruit to police officer after completion of the academy, which is approximately 26 weeks. This goes back to the Community-Oriented Policing Hiring Program grant that was approved several years ago. We need to start using that money. In fact, that clock is running as we speak. We'll pay for part of this, we'll pay for the recruit position, and then down the line as we've outlined in our staff report. So this is just going to add one position to our department that was approved in the budget earlier this fiscal year. And I ask for your approval, and I will entertain any questions or comments.
Do we have any questions or comments from the council? Yes, we do.
I think this is a creative solution, Chief. I like it. What is your timing on this?
We plan on posting this tomorrow,
Oh, well, all right. Sounds good.
with your approval, of course.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. I agree. I think this is a good way to go. Hopefully, it'll build some enmity between the recruit and the police force, and work in the benefit for both of us in the long run. Does anybody from the public wish to comment on this? All righty, bring it back here. Do I have a motion?
City manager has it.
The city manager would like to say something.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to add to this that there is someone that is interested in this, and it's an internal position. And so this helps us in promoting and et cetera to move people along in our, and create some loyalty to our community through this program. And so I'm excited to make this work. This is not something that we would maybe do, every time we recruit, but at this time we felt this was a good opportunity for us, and I worked with both the finance director and the police chief on this to see how this may work.
Great.
I understand that the city did do it years ago prior to me being here. Maybe Mr. Driscoll remembers it, but it was only maybe one occasion from what I understand, so it's not a regular item or event that happens. But looking forward to it, and it should be a good test case for us, and hopefully very successful in creating a good officer for our police department.
Okay,
I'd like to move 12.4.
I'll make a second.
great.
I'd like to
all-
thank the chief for his creativity.
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Choose wisely, Chief Ortega. Okay.
Somehow I think he will.
Council reports from other agency meetings, the El Dorado County Transit Authority.
Nothing really to report on that.
Okay. The Transportation Commission.
You want to take that?
I left my thing in the car.
So did I.
Okay. I'm trying to remember now. There were a lot of good things at the Transportation Commission that we got reports on. There's the CTC has come up with rules for SB1, which will interest us all, and that'll mean that we'll start to get the final numbers on exactly how much money the city and the county will be getting out of SB1, and that'll ramp up over time. I believe the new tax went into place on September 1st. The registration thing, I believe, went into effect in July or June, so you've probably noticed an increase in things.
Certainly, they reported out about the California Transportation Commission approving,
Yeah.
Once again, the money from the STIP,
Right.
Western Placerville Interchange,
Western
as well as the
Placerville
Broadway
Interchange.
Bike Lanes project, which
Right.
is very, very exciting.
Right.
And those were two hard-earned victories. And certainly thank our staff for supporting that, and the EDCT staff for being fierce advocates on our behalf.
We got some money for Upper Broadway. Yes, go.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, we, on August 31st, we were notified by the CTC staff that we are being recommended for additional ATP, which is Active Transportation Program funding, for the Upper Broadway Bike Lanes project. You may recall we've done some public outreach in the last year and a half or so, and one of the comments that we heard unanimously from the public was Upper Broadway substantially needs pedestrian facilities. And so hearing that, the city submitted two applications, one for CMAQ and one for ATP, and we did not receive the money on those two applications. However, because of the passing of SB1, it recharged the ATP program with additional $200 million in funding, which then, rather than doing another call for projects, since these applications are quite tedious and very expensive to produce, the state went off of the last round, the cycle 3 for ATP, and we ranked exceptionally well in the state round of the application process, and we have been recommended for funding for Upper Broadway for pedestrian connection facilities. The amount's approximately $2.2 million.
That's huge. And you went down to Oakland and represented the city along with Woodrow from the ETCTC staff.
Yes, ma'am,
right?
I did.
Well, thank you so much for that. I know that was a long trip, and I really appreciate you going down there to secure those funds for our city.
It was my pleasure.
Question, just to clarify, in case somebody's wondering, and I certainly appreciate your efforts, but can that funding be used to fix potholes or patch streets?
Councilmember Acuna, that is my favorite question.
I know it is.
No, it is not able to be used on any other project other than the one that it is specifically programmed for. Therefore, STIP money that is programmed for the Western Placerville Interchange cannot be used to repave Mosquito Road.
Well, you just sort of added that part on your own.
Thank you.
That was very good.
My pleasure.
The two other things that came up, one of them's out of town, but it's important, is apparently that piece of Highway 50 that tried to fall into the American River is going to be a one-lane affair up by Bridal Veil Falls for at least into November or December, I think.
End of the year.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. So just know about that. It's not that big a deal up there, but it's something to be aware of. And also, and this is really not something we talked about at the commission, but they're sort of finishing up the sort of fix of the bike trail coming across the Veterans Memorial Bridge there across on Highway 50 up onto Placerville Drive. It is, by any standard, a fix that no one would make their first choice. But it is a fix. It's temporary, although it'll be temporary for years, because presumably when the entire Western Placerville Interchange is done, that project, and it's all phases, that situation will be made so that it doesn't look like it does today. But at some point, they are actually going to open that up for bicycle and pedestrian use. I hear about it all the time. The only thing I would like to say is, once again, the money that was used for that cannot be used to pave potholes anywhere in El Dorado County, and we didn't design it. I think I don't want to throw anybody on the bus by saying who did in fact design it, but it was not our design. So anyway, that's your update from the El Dorado County Transportation Commission, unless you can think of something else. We all sit on with bated breath for the LAFCO report. So let's have the LAFCO.
The LAFCO report. Yes. I'm happy to report that the city manager and Mr. Rivas were able to have premier seating at the LAFCO meeting, because we went through our annual service, not our annual, but every 5-year service review by LAFCO. Yes. And Pierre was gracious enough to come and help clarify another one of those strange population explosions that exist in some faulty state documents, and give the consultant and LAFCO the clarifying documents that we really won't have, 20-some thousand people here in the next 3 years. And this is one of those weird things that started all our housing element problems a couple of years ago. So thank you for staff for coming down to the riveting meeting, and we did have, with flying colors, pass our service review.
Cool.
Great.
I was worried for a while.
I'm sure you were.
Those are interesting reports, though.
Yes.
Yeah, they do a nice job. They really
do.
It's,
Yeah, those are
it gives you a
interesting.
kind of a
the LAFCO team over there, they do real good work.
very
on that sort of
professional
thing.
group.
The SACOG, we haven't had any meetings since the last meeting. 2x2?
No, we are now down to quarterly meetings on that. We've
Okay.
not had one since the last
Cool.
council meeting.
Thank you. Any requests for future agenda items?
Yes, at staff's convenience, and maybe not the next one, we'll give it a little more time, but love a report on how animal control is getting a handle on Lumsden Park and the roosters. So I know it's a foul situation, but I know I couldn't resist.
Yeah, you could have resisted.
I couldn't resist that. So, so when it seems appropriate, when they've had time to get a handle on that.
Been, 2 years?
I'd prefer it sooner than that.
Yeah. So
I have every confidence.
I wouldn't be afraid to put the pressure on them.
Yeah. I have every confidence that the good people at Animal Control will get rid of those roosters.
Rogue roosters.
The rogue roosters in a timely fashion. But I agree, we should get a report back and find out what they're up to. Okay. 14.1, develop policy authorizing the city manager to respond on behalf of the city council on legislative issues that require response, and that's for
That's for a future agenda item. This was a request from Councilmember Borelli.
Right.
She was not able to be here. She asked that we put that on there as a future agenda item for your approval.
I agree.
That
with
makes
something.
sense,
That
yes,
makes sense.
yes.
That way we can be more
Proactive.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay, items, city manager and staff report, item 15.1, provide an update on the trail enforcement detail outlining progress to date and any recommendations if needed. Chief Ortega, you are all over this agenda tonight. No wonder.
I know, you don't hear from me for a cute couple of months, and then I come and
That's
I
okay.
bring all these staff
It's
reports.
special when we do, so it's good.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is just a short report. As you recall, a couple months ago, you approved some supplemental funding so that we could staff a couple of reserve officers to work along the El Dorado Trail to keep it safe, as some of the complaints that have been coming into many of you, as well as our department. The first thing I want to say is this was a community effort. It wasn't just the police department. And I wish Jackie No was here tonight because she was one of the spearheads behind it. So if she's going to watch this later, Jackie, kudos to her and her group for participating in ideas, helping us post signs, design the signs. What we've really done is tried to make this like a neighborhood watch, but for our trail that goes through our city. The officers work the trail at sporadic days of the week. They don't work at 40 full hours. Total staff hours over the past over a month have been 82 hours. They've identified 21 illegal campsites, and they've issued a warning to the people camping, to 13 people, and issued 4 citations for illegal camping. Our goal out there is not to arrest people, bring them to court. Our goal is really to get the message out that we want our trail to be useful for all of our citizens, to feel safe for people to walk in their mornings or in their evenings, or to take their children out there without fear of any potential criminal activity. Some of the other partners that we should thank are the Friends of the El Dorado Trail. That's Jackie's group. The California Department of Transportation. They have been phenomenal partners in helping us clean many of the areas, and a couple of you have gone on walks with us along the trail to see what they've done. The Shingle Springs Sovereign Nation Fire Department has come out and helped us, as well as obviously the City of Placerville Community Services Department. So Steve, thank you for your staff and their time and effort. Because I know we're all busy, we all have things to do, but we've identified the trail, as you all know, as one of the jewels of our city. We are not going to back off of or I shouldn't say stop the enforcement of our trails. We're going to have our officers out there on a semi-regular basis. They will not be known, they won't be announced. And our patrol officers, as they find time, they spend time walking the trails. In fact, all 3 of us, my 2 commanders, Ren and Nida, and I have also walked the trails just to get a feel for what's going on out there. So we think this was a really good effort. It will continue. And any suggestions that we get from any of our partners and community groups, we're definitely open to that. And with that, I'll open it to questions.
Great, thank you very much. I really like this report. I like the cooperation from the various groups was excellent, and especially getting Caltrans to help us out. We've come to expect, and we should never take for granted the support we get from local groups like the Trails folks and the tribe and whatnot. But getting Caltrans to really focus in on this is really quite something. So I really take a time to thank them, and I'm pleased that it doesn't take an inordinate number of hours. I mean, these are 82 hours that we could be using to police the rest of the city, so we shouldn't lose sight of that. But this is a relatively small price to pay to, at least in my opinion, to kind of make sure that, as you said, that the trail is there for everybody's use and people feel safe and secure when they're on it. Do we have any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, can I add one more thing?
You may always
Sorry, I didn't mean to
add-
startle
no,
you like that.
Kind of scared me.
I have to turn off my felony car stop voice
That's right.
sometimes. One of the things I wanted to emphasize also, and I made it a point for the officers to be sure they're carrying a list of resources, a pamphlet of services available for El Dorado County that they are available to them if they need help. We want to point them in the right direction, and there's a bigger effort going on that I'm not going to talk about now, but we wanted to make sure if there are folks out there that need our help, we're willing to do that. And again, this wasn't just enforcement, it was assistance and encouragement. So I wanted to make sure I threw that in there.
Thank you for pointing that out. That's vitally important in this discussion. So thank you for making that clarification. Are there any more comments or questions from the council?
Yeah. Okay.
Go right ahead.
Chief, couple questions. Did you have any folks take you up on that offer for help?
You mean when we would give people offers of help?
Yes.
We didn't track them, but I'm going to say yes because many of them we didn't see again.
Great.
So we're hoping they got the help they needed. The little pamphlet we gave them and had, like I said, had the address and the phone numbers. As most of the population that we're contacting, they seem to have cell phones and they would be able to make those telephone calls, or they knew where the services were.
Okay.
So we really wanted to make sure we were compassionate when we did that.
Well, that's good to hear. And I was blown away by the numbers that during this 6-week period that found 21 illegal campsites on that stretch of trail.
Yes, ma'am.
Were those individual sites, or were they duplicates? Or
No, those were individual separate sites.
Wow.
At different locations throughout the trail.
Wow.
So.
That's remarkable, and I really take my hat off to your officers, and Commander Wren's been incredible, as well as Officers Tadlock and McNerney and all of your staff, as well as our Steve and our Park and Recs department, Jackie and her crew, and Mark's help, and it's just been a team effort, and I really thank you for helping us take back the trail. And when I hear from the community that people are feeling safe and that mothers are back with strollers, and that just warms my heart, and that's exactly what we want in our fair city. And thank you for making that possible.
I can't emphasize enough, it just wasn't the police department. I'm sitting here talking about the status report, but it was all these groups that I've mentioned before. And Caltrans, Mr. Mayor, they were, I think all we needed to do was have them come out with us, and okay, maybe we bought them pizza one day, but they were very energetic and very thankful that we were willing to work with them and not just ask them to do it and not show up.
I think that was absolutely critical. The city showing that they were willing to put resources, and the community putting resources into this, I think made all the difference. I think frequently Caltrans gets asked to do things, and I mean they should keep their side of the fence tidy and everything anyway, but they have a lot of other miles of highway out there as well. So the fact that we took this thing and really ran with it, I think that was critical in making the big difference.
Yeah, we did not engage them till we had this program in place and we're ready to roll it out. And they were there the next day, which is amazing.
That was very good.
Amazing. I have one more question for the chief. Of the 4 citations or arrests that you made, what happened to those once they left your hands with the DA? Do you know?
I do not know, but I can find that out for you.
I'd like to know what happened if you have backup at that level for our enforcement.
We did talk with staff at the district attorney's office and kind of explained to them before we started this process that we would like to make sure that any citations or reports that were generated from this, we would like to make sure they were followed up on and not just dismissed.
Great. Yeah, I would like to know that in the future.
I will find that out for you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate all your efforts.
Any other questions or comments?
Oh, my goodness, I have several.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Chief, just for clarification for myself and the audience, you're talking about the section of the trail. Now, I know I've worked with you specifically on some parts of it. What area did our officers patrol from where to where for this?
So starting up, I want to say I guess if you would go east of Schnell School Road, okay, so that's a little further up, and then they came all the way down here by Ray Lawyer to the city limits. So anything that was within the city of Placerville.
Okay, good.
And everything in between. And I've talked to Officers McInerney and Tadlock, and they've walked that more times than they can count at this point. Probably losing a pound or two as it goes. This was in the summertime, and it was primarily in the daytime. So
okay, that's great because, as she's prone to do, Jackie just earlier this week produced photos of 4 additional absolutely disgusting campsites that are on the Caltrans side of the fence that apparently were just discovered this past week. Steve Buell was a part of that operation. Another volunteer cleanup, and as a part of that, the ongoing issues, there were 4 more blue tarp campsites that they discovered, and they are pretty dirty looking. Chief, I want to just thank you for the effort and the report. The feedback from the trail users has just been outstanding. as we ever left winter and people tried to start to come back out, there was a real concern for using the trail. And it's very rewarding, and I hope everybody can enjoy the fact that we now have a lot of folks that are back out on the trail, feel that it's now a part of the community again, and they feel comfortable using it. And the efforts with the signage and the smartphone apps and easy reporting all seem to be very well received by the trail users and the trail advocates. The other thing that I appreciate, I think you probably have tremendous street cred now with Caltrans because we did actually show up. I do believe most of the time those guys have to go out. These very dangerous situations, really. I wouldn't want to clean one up. They put themselves at risk every time they go into some of these camps. They came to Placerville and found out that they found a police department more than willing to partner in making sure the next thing on their list was a safe place for them to go and work.
Yeah, many times they called us in the morning, like 7 or 8 o'clock, and they said, hey, we have a crew, we could be there around 9. We figured it out and got a couple people out there to help stand by while they just checked to make sure no one was going to be there to harm them. So when they saw that kind of reaction, in fact, one of the managers told me, we don't usually get this kind of cooperation from the local jurisdictions. And I said, well, welcome to Placerville because you'll get it here.
Thank you, Chief.
And one other thing, if I could add to that, Councilman Acuna, is the 4 camps that were probably found this week. That brings up that we're going to, even as we go into the fall and the winter, there probably won't be a lot of this activity. As the weather starts getting better next spring, we will go into a maintenance mode, and we will be back out doing the same efforts that we're doing now. So we're not going to just stop, rest on our laurels, and think that this problem's solved. We want this trail to be a positive experience for anybody that uses it, not just this year, but next year and going forward.
Thank you. One last thing regarding to the work that Caltrans actually did on their side of the fence. That had been sort of a disappointment for a lot of the volunteer efforts up until this summer because we would get trained and interested folks to come out and work on our side, but it was clearly understood that you couldn't go on the Caltrans right-of-way. Well, guess where all the camps were? They were on the Caltrans right-of-way. And the mythology and the machinery that Caltrans used has now eliminated those campsites. And at the same time, you now have a very respectable roadside appearance. It's, it doesn't look like scorched earth. It's what you would expect to see is a good smattering of brush and trees, good visibility through to the fence. So now all our volunteers are going to come back this fall, and I have kind of gotten this message from Jackie that has re-enthused and re-encouraged them to come back this fall and look at new trail volunteer projects that they're going to want to talk to Mr. Ewell about. And they feel like now they can really continue to make a big difference because of all the progress that we made on the state side. So thanks to you and to them also. And I would just like to ask a question regarding because I look at these as, the illegal campfires are very worrisome. And we had the campfire incident over in the old Quartz Mountain subdivision that I understand burned about a half an acre. Has there been any follow-up as to what we can do to keep folks out of there or engage that property owner to be responsible?
I haven't had a chance to talk to Chief Hardy about that yet because he's been deployed for the last few weeks. That's on my list when I see him, and then we'll share some ideas, and I'm happy to report that back at a later time.
That'd be great. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Anything else? Right? Okay. Would the public like to comment on this item? Yeah.
I would just like to say thank you to all the people, to Chief Ortega, to Caltrans, that I feel now that I can walk on the trail, even with my walking stick and not walking as well as I used to, that I feel like I can go there and feel like I can be safe and enjoy the trail again. So, great work. Thank you very much.
Well, that's what we want to hear. Anyone else wish to comment on this? Okay, thank you very much. Item 15.2, A status update on the recommended revisions to the fiscal year 2017-2018 Measure H Fund and Measure L Fund Capital Improvement Program budget, as well as all other ongoing street, sewer system, and water system CIP projects. All other. That's a big deal. Ms. Neves, please enlighten us.
Well, as you know, we've been actively pursuing our Measure L projects, thanks to the voters of Placerville for passing that. And as anybody knows who looks around town, there's a lot of good work to be done. We just successfully finished our first Measure L funded paving project on Placerville Drive, and we are continuing to move forward with other planned CIP projects as was outlined in the adopted budget for this year. Included in your staff packet, and I apologize for the original format, we've had to do some revisions to that, and we've included a new format, and hopefully it's able to be legible for your eyes, but just kind of covering some of the items that are listed. The projects that are shown in with no fill color is paving only projects. The items that are shown in blue are water projects, and the items shown in green are sewer projects. So the first 3 pages cover just the planned projects that we have for Measure L. We are rolling out various paving projects this year, but just as a note and a reminder, a few of them include Mosquito Road. We are beginning the initial stages of doing a complete street project for Canal Street. We are working on the Woodridge Court repaving of that. We've also identified that there is a segment of sewer line that will need to be replaced with that as well. So we're going to be including that and doing a more efficient project with that. Martin Lane, we have some pavement that needs to be addressed, as well as a water main repair. And Ray Lawyer Drive, the area that I affectionately refer to as the S-curve, which is over by the old Boys and Girls Club building. We also have some pedestrian areas that are directly at intersections of roadways that are not only precarious for drivers, but also for drivers' ability to safely see and allow passage of pedestrians too, which is Pacific Street and the Clay Street crosswalk. We're also doing a few emergency repairs associated with the storm damage that we had to address, but these were items that do affect our roadway and infrastructure, and they are just as important. So if you go to page 4, you will see some of the ongoing Measure H projects that were already in the works. One of them is the Sierra Tank Bypass, and then also the sewer relocation from Clay to Locust, the Cedar Ravine Pressure Regulating Station, Wiltsey Pressure Relief Valve, and the Schnell School Pressure Regulating Station. We're actively working on all of those projects, and one project that has been on the books for some time that is progressing nicely is the Madrone and Giovanni lift stations. We had the pre-bid today. We had an excellent turnout from contractors in the area and a few a little outside the area, and we're very much looking forward to the bid opening on that, which is scheduled for September 21st. We also have some other active CIP projects. These are projects that are funded from outside funding sources, either by state funds or federal funds. Western Placerville Interchange, as so noted prior, EDCTC and the city participated in the CTC meeting in August, where we received the allocation for STIP funds. We are currently awaiting our authorization to proceed with our construction funding for the federal fiscal year for CMAQ. So we're moving along on that project. And yes, just to reiterate that these, the items, the projects that I'm discussing right now, these funds cannot be used on other projects in the city limits. They are programmed specifically to these projects. If we could have it our way, we could possibly do that, but we are grateful for the funds that we get that otherwise would go to another region in the state or even in the country. So we are happy to receive outside funding when it's available. Western Placerville Interchange is moving right along. We have the request for proposals for construction management services currently out. Upper Broadway, we were very excited, leaping around the office, in fact, when we found out that the CTC staff was recommending that project for additional $2.2 million in active transportation program funding, allowing us an ability and funding source to get the pedestrian improvements that the public so desperately wants and deserves too. You know, it's a very heavily traveled corridor, so we're very excited to proceed with that. Broadway Sidewalks is another pedestrian project that we have in the works through Highway Safety Improvement Program money, which also was the same source that did our crosswalks about a year and a half ago. And we are we're in the process of selecting a consultant for the design. Placerville Drive Bridge Replacement Project, we are moving forward with that in conjunction with the Placerville Drive Bike and Pedestrian Project. These are two separate yet very coveted federal funds. We have HBP money on the bridge, Highway Bridge Program money, and we have CMAQ, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Funds, for the bike and ped job. Engineering is currently in the process of developing a design consultant, engineer, and environmental compliance consultant RFP, a request for proposals, that we'll be releasing within about 2 months or so. So we are proceeding with that. The Clay Street Bridge Replacement Project, we are proceeding forward with environmental documentation, and we hope to have the draft EIR out for circulation prior to the end of the year. And then also, you know, we have been quite busy. This last this last fiscal year, we completed the Pardee Waterline Replacement Project, and it's my honor to say that we received APWA Sacramento Chapter Project of the Year award for that. And the Blair's Lane Bridge project was also completed. We are in the process of project closeout for that, and the Western Placerville Interchange Phase 1B project. So $9.3 million worth of work in the last year, and all three of these projects that we completed did have outside funding sources. Blair's was through Highway Bridge Program, Pardee was through Prop 84 grant, and Western Placerville Interchange was CMAQ money as well. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And any questions or comments for folks besides, wow, this is a lot of work, thank you very much, job well done, keep it up, let's go. Okay.
I mean, just hearing you go through the projects is nothing short of spectacular for our entire staff who made this happen. I mean, we have a small staff, this small city, and the work that you have accomplished and are in the works of accomplishing is nothing short of incredible, and we are so grateful to each and every one of you for that. It's remarkable. So wait, let me just clarify. $9.3 million worth of improvements have been done this year?
Yes, ma'am.
That's amazing, from outside sources.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Those were completed this year.
Right,
Yes. They may have started in a previous year.
Right.
But-
Yeah, I know things take a while.
Essentially,
But that's
perhaps.
really exciting.
Yes, okay. Any other comments?
Question. Rebecca, thank you very much for your hard work, and thank you for preparing this. This is very useful.
My pleasure.
Hopefully we could see these on a regular basis as time allows. Question, Western Placerville Interchange, the next phase, when is that scheduled for construction?
We are releasing the plans for bidding. The schedule is set for November 7th. The intent is, as I mentioned, the request for proposals for construction management services is currently out. We will be receiving proposals next week on Tuesday and conducting interviews with the qualified selected firms on October 3rd. And it is the intent of staff that we come back at the October 24th meeting for a contract award and request for permission to release the project for bidding. And at that point, we would release it on November 7th with intention of bid opening, I believe it's December 12th, and potentially pushed to December 19th if there becomes questions or any kind of nuances within the contract that arises. And the intent is also then on the first council meeting in January to award the construction contract if the bids received are within the funded amount.
Oh, excellent. That's excellent additional info.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Would the public like to comment on any of this?
Kirk Smith of Placerville. I don't know if this is going to be germane to your discussion, but when it comes to these kinds of monies for doing public works projects, does anyone seek money from the county? For example, when you just did the Placerville Drive section in front of the county fairgrounds, that's the county fairgrounds, and they use it all the time. It brings in revenue for the county. Has anybody sought that money? I think there was some discussion last year when extra money was spent on extending the pool hours for the swimming pool, that efforts would be made to get money from the county for that. And then we had work on Main Street, and Main Street isn't just for the city, it's the county, like when we have huge numbers of people for the tree lighting. So has anybody gotten any money, or are they gonna get any money? I'm just wondering if you could help us out.
What? You have a question? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to question. Thank you. I will answer this generically, and then I'm sure Rebecca will answer it specifically. This comes up all the time. What about the county? For one thing, the county isn't rolling around in a bunch of extra money. They spend it on their roads. And it would be germane, except if only if everybody in Placerville stayed in Placerville and never drove out onto a county road. So Placerville citizens drive onto county roads. The El Dorado County doesn't ask us for money to fix their roads, or at least they don't, or they haven't as far as I know. Most of these projects are cooperative things. They're done through the Transportation Commission. They're using state transportation improvement program money. So we did get cooperation on Western Placerville Interchange for some swap of land, I believe, on a couple of places. The counties cooperated with us. We could ask the county for money, but my guess is they would say thank you very much. The pool is a different issue because the pool is directly, you can say, we know people come in and use the pool, and it's a service that the county does not provide. So I hear the question. It's a good one, but it has been asked and answered more than once, and it is sort of amongst those things. Our roads are our roads, their roads are their roads, Caltrans's roads are Caltrans's roads. We try to cooperate, but on the money side, it's a challenge. Rebecca will now answer this specifically. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent job. Yes, we absolutely collaborate with the county. They're one of our biggest supporters and partners in all projects, and the feeling is mutual. We're very fortunate to have such excellent staff over at the county, and we do work with them, not only with them directly, but also through EDCTC, as you mentioned, specifically on Western Placerville Interchange. They are a funding partner, no less, too, on the project. They did appropriate $272,000 of state transportation block grant program funds, or prior known as RSTP funds. They also assist us in, as you accurately mentioned, the right-of-way for the Western Placerville Interchange, because they do recognize that that is a regionally significant project to deliver. There are other facets and projects that we work with them as well on, but that is two specific examples.
Thank you. And I think also it should be noted that as we start to roll out more and more Measure L monies, we've been in conversations with the county so that when we do have like cross-jurisdictionals, like, so we're going to, there's nothing weirder than being on a nice road until you get to a boundary somewhere and then it turns into stuff. We're talking already with the county to work with them on those specific things so that we can get economies of scale. They may be doing a project, we would then follow through and do a project on our side of the road and share resources and whatnot. So yes, we do talk to the county. The exchange of dollars is challenging, and yeah, anyway.
Can I add one more thing? Dave, yes. If you can help me out on Placerville, the Placerville Drive Phase 1A, they put up $1.2 million. I think we used about $700,000 of that, and then gave some money back. Do you remember the numbers on that, Dave?
We returned approximately $530,000.
So they did contribute about $700,000 to that project. So we do work with them on several projects, and they do contribute funding to that too. Okay,
so,
yes.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments on this item? This is very exciting. I think for anybody who lives in town who's been part of this, this is very exciting. And we will continue to look at ways to deal with the county and cooperate across things. There's also ways that we can share resources that have nothing to do with money, but that will bring back value to these kinds of projects. So I suspect that that's a conversation we'll be having a long time into the future as this money rolls out and we do good deeds with it.
Well, the next phase of Western Placerville is a great example. I appreciated Rebecca's update on that.
Yeah.
Because right now there's a tremendous traffic load on Fairlane and other parts of Placerville Drive because of, you think of everybody coming to visit the county offices that live west of that location. They can get on the freeway to get back to Cameron Park or Shingle Springs or El Dorado Hills. But they've got to wind their way through our old street system to get there. When this eastbound off-ramp opens, the change in traffic patterns down there is going to be outstanding, and it's going to really take a tremendous load off of our streets and allow the people that are there to do city business, shopping and what have you. It's going to flow much better. And the visit to Placerville from those western folks will be a much more pleasant one, too.
I'm actually always surprised how often I use the westbound on-ramp up there off of Ray Lawyer Drive. I actually use it quite a bit to get down onto the highway. The other thing, too, about the fairgrounds is, surprisingly enough, El Dorado County has almost no control over the fairgrounds, much to their chagrin. And the Fair Board is bereft of any kind of funding. So anyway, but those are good questions. I have no problem with that, and the fact is we can answer them, and we'll continue to engage our good friends at the county. Is there anything else? Okay. Let's see here. Let me find. I covered it. Here we go. Upcoming items. Tentatively scheduled. Actually, I want to go back to this list. It would be really cool if we could make this list in some sort of publicly consumptible sort of formatting that would, and maybe gussy it up a little bit and maybe do some explainers, because if they just got this, the public may not understand all the inside baseball stuff. Absolutely. So if we could get something that could actually be put out to the public so they can see all the good works that's going on in the city and everything that we're planning to do in the far and not so far future.
And post it on the website.
I thought we would just keep it under a rock, but yeah, posting on the website.
We should put it on the website.
Great
Yeah.
idea. I love that idea. Okay, upcoming items. Oh man, items. I said I wouldn't do that. Items tentatively scheduled for the next regularly scheduled City Council meeting on September 26, 2017, which is the day before my 36th wedding anniversary, by the way. Title, and I just threw that out there. Title VI program for FTA funds. Martin Lane repairs. Yeah, because we really messed up Martin Lane. SB1 projects list, development guide, chapter 13. Had to remember my Roman numerals. Signage amendments. Corporation Yard repairs, we will be giving them a roof, hopefully. Airport Road sinkhole repair, good idea. Parking restrictions on Arizona Way. There's a lot of good stuff in this next agenda. I expect there to be a lot more people here to listen, because there is a lot of good things here. Okay, the next meeting will be, as I mentioned before, September 26, 2017, 5:30, closed session, 6 o'clock regular session. Go home.